This weekend I was trapped in another limbo of trying to find the next thing to play, just recently beating my bi-weekly task to complete one of my games, and I ended up flopping between Dishonored, Death of the Outsider, and a new release known as The Suicide of Rachel Foster, a new indie game from the people behind State of Mind, if that rings a bell for anybody. I haven't played it yet, but it waits slumbering in the backlog looking pretty cool indeed. Usually I get pretty excited for walking simulators as long as they're not on a puzzle level along the lines of Myst, with the vanishing of Ethan Carter probably being one of the hardest I've played, if that says anything. But with my recent replay of Firewatch, I was really searching for something along those lines. Easy to get through whilst playing a decently interesting story, and I gotta say, I really enjoyed this new title. I've seen a lot of mixed feelings, reviews, and articles due to the material of the game, but personally, while I was definitely a little shocked to see what this game was, it told a great story with some awesome dialogue. I thought to myself after reading a few articles saying it sounded like a Google Translator, and I just want to note and give credit to Daedric Games, and hopefully that is the name of this. Alright, that's what's written down. I'm sorry. For putting in the effort to get good talent, as narration and dialogue are pretty key when it comes to a game that you basically walk from point A to point B for 4 hours or so. Nicole, the main character of this game, comes off as a real person for the most part, being a pretty likable character from start to finish, besides the horror movie tropes defying humanity's built-in will to survive. She shows emotion in her voice that comes off as real, and her walkie-talkie sidekick, Irving, gave a lot to listen in on, both slowly bringing out old memories with every DSL dial tone conversation you can muster. In The Suicide of Rachel Foster, you'll be turning to her childhood home, the Timberline Hotel in Montana, to settle a will after her father passes away and her mother ends her own life, leaving a note with some small hints as past events at the old family hotel. Arriving at the hotel, you're more than likely to start to get a bit of a Shining vibe as you drive up through the snowy country roads up to a beautiful outdoorsy lodge in the mountains. And this gives the intro to the game a pretty nice feel and continues to nail it throughout your playthrough, as you'll be trapped in the hotel uncovering the truth behind a dark family secret while you stumble through the isolated corridors looking for the next key or hidden room. Rachel Foster does a great job of pacing and feeding you more and more different and unique pieces of dialogue or events, and kept me pretty plugged into the story after about an hour and a half playing it, as it starts a little slow and I wasn't sure how tame the story was going to remain, but it draws a lot of similarities from Firewatch, using isolation and dialogue with faceless companions over radio to slowly build its narrative from two perspectives. And like Firewatch, when something intense actually happens, it really felt like something big actually freaking me out a little bit, and that's not something that happens to me very much in video games, but with some of the clues and mysteries you'll find in the hotel between Ghost Hunter TV tapes, lost and hidden rooms of the very place you're staying in, felt extremely tense as I just continued to look toward the door waiting for a face to appear. Some of the information given at the end gave me goosebumps, and I swear Game Joel has given me horror game PTSD, constantly thinking of shitty jump scares around every single corner. Whoa! Oh! And that's one thing I can give this game, as Rachel Foster doesn't really rely on sporadic movement and in-your-face jump scares, but uses all of its resources to give you more story and more atmosphere. Some points in this game felt genuinely wrong, listening to the two protagonists freak out as they go deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole of the hotel, with every few minutes getting to listen to some more playful dialogue between Nicole and the female agent Irving, a seemingly simple-minded fellow with a heart of gold.
Like, at least I won't wet myself?
No, I didn't mean...
Don't blush, kid. I was just kidding.
Oh,
I'll call if I need you.
And I gotta say this again, I really enjoyed the dialogue in this game. It really brought me those cool tense moments that Firewatch was able to give me, stringing me along old family history, picking up clues only to be blown away later in the game when something related pops up. Nicole's character was interesting enough as a confident woman in the 90s, and quite brave to be returning to this hotel, as the basic narrative is pretty dark to start with. And this is the best part of the game, being able to mix wholesome mystery stories with some serious psychological thriller elements, twisting what you might think is going on without being too predictable, even though I can't say for the whole game, but good enough to get me to play it in two settings, really picking up after the first hour or so, but never really hitting a boring patch. I just wasn't sure whether to compare it narratively to Firewatch with lots of dialogue in between events and basic puzzle key finding segments, or if it was going to be more like a Myst with a silent narrative being told through its environment, and I'm happy to say it takes the Firewatch route. Not that Myst is bad by any means, I just really suck ass at point and click adventure games or puzzle solving on those levels. The Suicide of Rachel Foster clocks in about 4 to 5 hours if you're productive and observant. The game's fairly easy to push yourself through, never really throwing you any curveball puzzles, and I enjoyed this again on a personal preference. I play for straight up story and cutscenes generally, and that might seem kinda bad from a review standpoint, but that's just That's just where it's at. You can pick this gem up on GOG for about $14 at the moment, a very worthy price tag for the experience, and you can also pick it up on Steam, but why would you when you can have a totally DRM-free version of the game that you can share with your buddy? Or maybe you can go halfsies on it. I don't know. Is that legal? Can I advise you to do that? I don't know, so just don't, but GOG is awesome. Overall, The Suicide of Rachel Foster presents itself as almost a slow-rolling mystery book, not just shoving super obvious clues, but slowly bringing you to your probably already made conclusions, and I really enjoyed the day system. Once again, similar to Firewatch, it just feels nice to end the day on a heavy note, as well as sending you back to where you need to start your next investigation of Blue's Clues. I don't want to spoil too much of the story, so I'm leaving out a lot, but I do gotta say, I very much enjoyed this title. It really gave me chills at parts, and doesn't leave a lot to be answered, but now we gotta get to the bad. The Suicide of Rachel Foster seems to jump between mystery and reality, as well as a few parts with some paranormal stuff, and this left me a couple things to ask, as they never really wrap up or explain why the paranormal stuff was happening outside of the base gist, and this felt a little unneeded, as it just takes away from the seriousness of the situation, wondering if Rachel is dead or alive, and what actually happened all those years ago, with the ending being a little strange. I had to go back and watch my recording to make sure I got it, and I'm still a little unsure on what exactly happened towards the end finale, and while that's okay, I think it's left quite a few people to wonder what just happened. And ultimately, I kind of think the paranormal stuff takes away from like the nitty gritty dirty shit that's actually going on in the game. I should say what's happening with the story, not the actual mechanics or anything, because this game does deal with some pretty bad things. Now for the biggest issue, and the main reason I've seen a few bad articles trashing this game, is mostly due to the suicide issue and the beating around the bush of Nicole's dad, and just what the relationship between Rachel and Leonard, Nicole's dad, was never really staying at. But being pretty obvious, and while I see the issue, I don't really think the game was trying to beat around the bush. I just think it wasn't trying to jump straight into that kind of story, and kept most of it vague. And I will say the truth of the story is pretty fucking dark, but it really got me good once Nicole finds it out herself, and how obvious it was, and I won't say any more about it. Thank you everybody so much for watching this and the rest. It means a lot, even if you didn't enjoy it too much. I'm working pretty hard on these, and I hope it shows. Pick up this great little indie game and show your support for not only Daedric Games, but all the awesome indie titles that give us these great one-off stories. For the back of this box, I forgot to do it for the last couple, so we'll throw some dead people on there, even though we're not really dealing with dead people, but that's where the vibe's at. We'll throw in some renovation plans, maybe a steady calling from a stalker, and to top it all off, some Montana FEMA hospitality. Alright everybody, have yourself a great night, and thank you again so much for watching. I appreciate it so much. I'm gonna shut the fuck up now.